What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and the saga surrounding things like Japanese translations, woke weirdos, and things like AI have reached new heights. For one of the most prolific artists in modern entertainment boycotting an entire company, and Crunchyroll's ADR director waging war against Asmongold and content creators alike, there's some stuff that we need to go over today. So first, let's begin with that boycott. From this article at Eurogamer we have titled, Magic the Gathering artist quits, you can't say you're against AI, then blatantly use it. This whole controversy began very recently when prolific artist Dave Raposa has publicly stated that he has cut all ties with Wizards of the Coast. So what the hell happened? Well, Dave Raposa, in case you don't know him, he's considered one of the best artists in the medium working today. You've absolutely have seen his work at some point if you enjoy anything fantasy, sci-fi, or video game related at all in the last 10 years at least. Dave is an insanely talented artist. Everything you're seeing on screen right now was done by him and him alone. Dave has also contributed to things like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, with some very eye-catching art like this one, which was used to promote the Dark Urge character storyline. You very likely have seen this promotional image if you're a Baldur's Gate fan. He's also done other Baldur's Gate artwork for Wizards of the Coast as well, not to mention many of their official Magic the Gathering cards. And that's not including all the art Dave has done for other games and publishers too. When it comes to people like Dave Raposa, it's never really his pleasure to be working with a brand, but it's usually the other way around. His art is so good that companies pay top dollar to have this guy make stuff for them. So when an artist of this level openly mocks and boycotts your brand, it's not a good look, and this is the kind of thing that these companies would want to rectify almost immediately if possible. It's also in Wizards' best interest to apologize and course correct because Dave has a massive following as well. And many of those followers are other artists who also work in the medium. So when Dave says your company is shit and people should boycott it, you better believe that's not a good sign for your brand. So what the hell happened? What caused Dave to go scorched earth on Wizards of the Coast? Wizards is a massive company that owns brands like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons, which Baldur's Gate is a part of, by the way. And they very publicly stated that they would never risk the integrity of their brands through the use of artificial intelligence, especially when it came to things like art. This, of course, became a rule set in stone by Wizards of the Coast. And of course, because of this stand, it made artists like Dave Raposa willing to work with them. And this partnership has flourished for years now and spanned many of their brands. However, recently, when promoting one of their new Magic the Gathering sets, Wizards decided to post this image for the promotion, which you can see on screen now. The cards themselves are not AI, however, it doesn't even take a trained eye to look for even a few seconds at this image's background elements to realize that the image surrounding these Magic cards was clearly not made by human hands. Other artists and fans of Dave have come to his defense to point out the inconsistencies within the promotional image's quality and originality, calling out how the light bulbs behind the Magic cards are very clearly not real and make no sense at all. Not to mention the way these wires look on the side here as well, or the background at large just looking blatantly like AI generated nonsense. Of course, if none of this is enough to convince someone, you have to take but one look at the instrument on the left side here. And I mean, come on man, this is clearly not real at all. What makes this even worse is that in a now deleted tweet following pushback, Wizards attempted to save face by telling fans that the image was in fact made by human hands and not AI. But of course, Magic fans, and Dave specifically, were having none of that. And this combination of an AI-generated promotional image as well as lying to their customer base about it not being AI, well, it led to a massive boycott that Dave has now created himself. So let's hear what Dave Raposa has to say, and I quote, "And just like that, poof, I'm done working for Wizards of the Coast. You can't say you stand against this then blatantly use AI to promote your products. Email sent, goodbye you all. If you're gonna stand for something, you better make sure you're actually paying attention. Don't be lazy, don't lie. Also, to be clear, I'm quitting because they took a moral stand against AI art like a week ago and then did this. If they said they were going to use AI, that's a different story, but they want to grandstand like heroes and also pull this, that's goofball shit I won't support. Don't be hard on other artists if they don't quit. I can and can afford to because I work for many other game studios and whatnot. Some people only have Wizards of the Coast and cannot afford to quit having families and others to take care of. Don't follow my lead if you can't, no pressure, end quote. Dave would then reply a bit later on Twitter where he would say this as well: got a lot of messages about the Wizards of the Coast response. I'm not going to return for work. Let's see how this all pans out over time. My hope is they stick to their word, but everyone seems to be heading that direction, so I'll hang for a while. Some fans were worried that Dave could be financially ruining himself, but he did reassure fans where he said this: I've been a freelancer for 17 years, so I usually work for a number of clients. No worries at all, I'll be fine. So, as you can see, this is a guy who you do not want to fumble in an artistic or professional way. This would be akin to, say, Disney getting boycotted by someone like John Williams, who composed the Star Wars music. Or sort of how Warner Bros. Fumbled Christopher Nolan when they screwed him over with the release of Tenet. And then Nolan went to a different studio and made Oppenheimer, which blew the doors off cinemas. And apparently Warner Bros. Has been trying to win back Nolan ever since, because when you lose people of this caliber, it's a massive blow to your brand and your future projections. Dave Raposa, in an art sense, is what Nolan is to movies. And Wizards fumbling him like this, in my opinion anyway, is the biggest L of 2024 so far. You can quote me on that, by the way. This is a guy who just for the Magic the Gathering brand alone has done work for 61 cards in total. And like I previously said, he has worked with Baldur's Gate as a brand very closely as well, so it is in Wizards' best interest to rectify this misfire as soon as possible. I would go as far as to not only publicly apologize, but they should beg Dave for his forgiveness. But of course, this is the same company that has made many moronic mistakes these past few years already. They've also done things like race-swapped legacy characters on Magic cards, like their Lord of the Rings line with Aragorn suddenly becoming a black man. And they've also removed concepts like half-races in Dungeons & Dragons, which directly affects Baldur's Gate of course too. And that story was a mess as well, because Wizards decided in their infinite quest for moral superiority that they would denounce half races and claim anyone of mixed blood was problematic and not deemed to exist. And you can imagine how fans who come from mixed heritage, like myself for example, took one look at Wizards making that claim and going, oh, so I shouldn't exist in Wizards' eyes. Very cool, thanks Wizards, you're so against identity politics. You went right past the line and you circled right back into the racism camp again. So when I take these controversies and more and then I place them against them now fumbling Dave Raposa over using AI, and then lying by saying that they didn't use it only to then get called out on their lie, and then resorting to deleting the evidence, but this is the internet, so who are we kidding? Of course the internet never forgets anything. So they've somehow started 2024 with the biggest L I've seen so far. Well, I mean, it's definitely up there with another company that's being bled from the inside out by wokeness in the form of Crunchyroll. At this point, I assume you guys are all pretty well versed in the whole woke localizers, or wokalizers as I like to call them, and how many of these English translators are being outed for injecting identity politics and agenda nonsense into Japanese content. Like changing entire lines to fit new narratives, and this has even led to older stories getting resurfaced like this one, where a translator named Tony Nguyen, who worked on the English translation for the video game Skies of Arcadia, just openly admitted that when he was tasked with localizing the game for English audiences, he basically threw the entire Japanese script into the trash and then rewrote the entire game in his own words instead. Nguyen would then tell on himself by saying, "We mapped out the big story beats in each scene and then just watched the cutscenes and ad-libbed what we imagined each character would say and then rewrote a lot of the dialogue completely." And this game is not new, by the way. It came out in 2000. So when I say these sorts of translations and vocalizers putting their stamp on things is not something new, I mean it. This has been happening for a really long time. But this then brings me to Crunchyroll's English dub director, Jamie Marchi. She's the lady who has in the past called fans virgins and losers. And anyone that is against her use of woke identity politics within the dubs of Japanese anime to not be real fans, and are just NIZIs, which I don't think I can say, but you know what that is. Basically, Jamie Marchi hates anyone who criticizes her and has actively used her platform to push others that don't agree with her either out of the industry entirely, and has used her position to essentially create her own department within Crunchyroll that is full of nothing but yes men and women that beckon to her every whim. As I said in a previous video, Jamie Marchi is the Kathleen Kennedy of Crunchyroll. She's making content worse on purpose and has become power drunk from the amount of power she has within the company that she works for. Of course, since all of this localization exposure has been going on, Jamie has been at the center of the storm, taking most of the hits. But it's not unearned, of course. This woman genuinely hates anyone who thinks even a little bit different than she does. And she thinks fans need to shut up and accept anything her team throws their way, because Crunchyroll has a monopoly on the English dub market when it comes to Japanese content. And it's either her way or nothing ultimately. And of course, fans are pushing back, and rightfully so. Anyway, now Jamie has decided to not triple or quadruple down, but she's doubled down so many times in the last week alone. Let's just keep it simple and say this lady is pissed, and she will burn everything down before she admits any wrongdoing. Now she's coming for Asmongold and any content creators that publicly call her out and threaten her empire of wokeness. Jamie also released this clip via TikTok that was aimed directly at Asmongold, who was one of the primary reasons why this entire controversy meta we're in has exploded to begin with. Let's listen to what Jamie has to say first, so here you go.
Recently, some followers of Asmongold have been criticizing me and demanding answers regarding a line I wrote in 2017 and the answer I gave to a question at a panel a year or two later. If you don't know who Asmongold is, he is a streamer with well over 2 million followers. Now, since Asmongold was gracious enough to respond to the criticism and the demands for answers he's been receiving regarding his involvement with Soft Giving and their controversy, I thought it's only fair that I respond to his followers in kind. Well, who gives a shit? Somebody makes an allegation against me and now somehow I have to respond to it? No, I don't have to say anything. Who gives a Thank you for your time.
And since this has happened, Asmongold has now responded to Jamie, so let's hear what he has to say as well, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. She's backed in a corner, doesn't know how to make an argument. Well, it's because she thinks that she doesn't really have to, in a way, right? She thinks that she's better than that or something else. Like a good example of this is like, and I understand, like, if we were criticizing her for like being calling her like a bad person or anything like that. But the truth is that, like, whenever you create a product, like for example, like with Starforge or anything else, whenever you create a product, you then open yourself up to criticism, and people can criticize that product. And a criticism of the product is not necessarily a criticism of you. Whenever people say that, like, oh, well, this, I wish Starforge was like this, or this was like that. Like with Mad Mushroom, like if we announce a new game or something like that, and people don't like that game, criticism of that is not criticism of me personally. Now, obviously, you're going to have some people that take it too far, etc. But this is like a third party. It's not about her. It's not about me. It's not about anything. It's about this other thing. So trying to like allege and like, you know, paint me as some kind of like a scammer or some like weird f***ing guy, you can go ahead and do that all you want. But I think it's very obvious that she doesn't really care about that problem at all. The only reason she's using it is as a weapon to defend herself. It has nothing to do with what I was saying. It has nothing to do with anything. And she's just hoping that somehow maybe I can make some equivalency for this and it will get me out of the problem. That's all there is to it. It's whataboutism. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, sure.
And Asmongold's right, by the way. As soon as you make something or put yourself out there, you open yourself to any and all criticism. Whether you agree with it or not, that doesn't really matter. The point still stands that it is within anyone's right of free speech to say what they feel, even if you don't agree with it. I'm a firm believer that you could make content that is the most wholesome, cute, nice, just the most happy-go-lucky videos ever. And you will absolutely still have people in the replies or on Reddit that will criticize or hate your content anyway. Just look at Mr. Beast, for example. People are mad that the guy cured people's illnesses or brought fresh water to villages in Africa. The point is that no matter what you do, whether it's good or evil, criticism will always exist. And the lesson I think Jamie Marchi should learn from this is that she is not free from criticism either. My own guess here would likely be that Jamie, within her position at Crunchyroll, probably doesn't face a lot of criticism, if at all, to be honest. And that's not because she's perfect at her job, mind you, but because, like I said when I compared her to Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, Jamie has created this massive echo chamber within Crunchyroll that bends to her every whim and demand. And because of that echo chamber, she has created an environment where her decisions, opinions, and thoughts are not challenged or receive any forms of criticism. She lives on a day-by-day basis within Crunchyroll, surrounded by people who agree and support her every decision. But the reality is that it is that way because the people around her, like those who surround Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, they can't criticize or push back against Jamie without fear of repercussions and threats of blacklisting. So when you have someone like this who's been bathing in their own farts and opinions like this getting the backlash that they are, it hurts them. And it does this because Jamie Marchi, for once, cannot control the narrative on things like Twitter or YouTube like she can at Crunchyroll. Like, Jamie can't control me. She can't fire me or do whatever she wants. I can call Jamie Marchi a crazy middle-aged cat lady and she can't do anything to me. Asmongold and others are able to criticize this woman without repercussion because criticism, whether they want to admit it or not, is not hate speech. And Jamie now is facing the very real repercussions and backlash of her actions, but without the usual shield or echo chamber she's accustomed to living within, if that makes sense. If Jamie, for example, had control over YouTube or Twitter like she does Crunchyroll, then obviously none of us would be able to criticize her. And this not only pisses her off, it rightfully exposes and shines a light where people like Jamie, for example, do not want that light to be shined. Jamie, alongside her networks of vocalizers, have effectively turned Japanese content into their own soapboxes that allows them to say whatever they want, even if what's actually being said is not what's in the anime itself. Of course, the famous example from Dragon Maid here just blatantly points out the reasons for why this backlash is happening in the first place. On the left, you got the original Japanese dialogue translated into English. On the right, you have Jamie Marchi's personal translation of that anime that is officially in the show right now. You take one look at this, and you can, without a shadow of a doubt, immediately tell the stark contrast between what's real and what's identity politically driven. And this is the issue here, and why more than ever I implore anyone watching to stay vigilant and to always ask questions when you consume your media. I know we often just want to relax into escapism, but the sad reality is that the media you enjoy is likely being tampered with by bad faith individuals like Jamie. And if you're a follower of this channel, you know that I love Japanese content. And I want nothing more than for millions of people to enjoy the wonders of anime or JRPGs without fear of nonsense like this. But if this video has proven anything, it's that whether it's the vocalizers ruining things in order to fit agendas, or woke companies like Wizards fumbling their greatest talents by being morons, a lot of these problems are oftentimes self-inflicted. And these companies can only learn when they're hit where it hurts. And I think we should all take an example out of Dave Raposa's playbook here when it comes to anime as well, and boycott it as he boycotts Wizards and Magic. Because if you don't take a stand and you don't lead by example, then what are we left with? We must make the media that we love great again, and we can, dear viewer. It'll take a long time, but if my efforts can lead to a brighter future for others, then it's something I'll do gladly every single day. Jamie Marchi must answer for her nonsense, and Wizards must apologize and do better by Dave Raposa. And maybe if things can start to get on track, we can move towards a better and more authentic future. As always, I thank you for watching, and I appreciate you spending your time watching this. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and share this video to help the channel out. Take care of yourselves, question everything, and keep your minds clear. Thank you for everything, and I'll see you in the next one.